The same story plays out in a million different ways every day. A big dream, an even bigger fear, and then, inevitably, a huge regret. But it doesn't have to be this way. Several years ago, I made a decision for myself that changed everything. I decided to stop letting fear stand in my way. I realized it was okay to be afraid, that everyone is afraid sometimes, but that it wasn't okay to let fear prevent me from doing all those things I really wanted to do. I realized I needed to figure out a way to leverage fear to my advantage. So I decided that from then on, I would just do it scared. Do it scared became my mantra, a little phrase I repeated to myself every time I felt nervous or afraid. Every time I stepped outside my comfort zone or took a risk or felt unsure of myself, which, let's be honest, was pretty much all the time. Once I became an entrepreneur, the Do It Scared mantra became the first of my company's fundamental core values. And eventually it became a rallying cry for the members of our communities at both Living Well, Spending Less and Elite Blog Academy. So much so that I was inspired to start the Do It Scared with Ruth Soukup podcast to help others and myself face our fears, overcome obstacles, and most importantly, create a life we love. You might even say I became a little obsessed. And that's where this book comes in. The Fear Archetypes. Over the past 9 years, as I navigated my own fears and talked with many members of our communities, I began to recognize just how big of an impact fear has on our lives, especially for women. It's devastating to hear so many people in our communities say that they feel like they're sitting on the sidelines of their own life, afraid to go all in, terrified of making a mistake, of letting people down, of failing, or of being laughed at. They see the things they'd like to do and yet don't, simply because they're too afraid. But as I talked to more and more women about this topic, I also started to realize that not all fear is created equal. Oh, don't get me wrong, we're all afraid of something. We all have fear, and we're all impacted by fear in some way. But the way fear manifests itself in our lives varies greatly. One person fears failure, while another fears rejection. One person fears being held responsible, while another is paralyzed at the thought of getting it wrong, whatever it may be. I decided I wanted to go deeper, and boy, did I ever. I surveyed more than 4,000 people in my communities about the role of fear in their lives, and then hired a team of researchers to help me analyze a staggering amount of data. I was particularly interested in finding out more about how fear holds us back from pursuing our dreams, reaching our goals, and chasing opportunities. The survey asked questions about goals and life satisfaction, as well as questions about experiences of fear and adversity, about times when fear had stopped someone from pursuing a goal or dream, and about times when someone had pushed through fear in order to accomplish something. Several of the questions were open-ended, and the stories people shared about their experiences ran the gamut from completely inspiring to utterly heartbreaking. Many of these stories are represented throughout this book, either as quotes from survey responses or as slightly modified stories and archetype personas. The survey results were incredibly insightful in several ways, but one discovery stood out above all the others. In fact, the moment it clicked into place, it nearly took my breath away. What's more, it made sense of so many confusing and unanswered questions. That aha moment was the discovery of 7 fear patterns, 7 distinct ways fear plays out in our lives, specifically in the way it impacts our willingness to step out of our comfort zones to pursue a dream or opportunity. And because I like naming things, an obsession my team will readily attest to, I call these 7 patterns fear archetypes. They include the procrastinator, the rule follower, the people pleaser, the outcast, the self-doubter, the excuse maker, and the pessimist. And that's where it really gets fascinating. Because, you see, while each of us possess a few qualities of all 7 archetypes, most of us have at least one dominant archetype that affects us more strongly than the others and plays out in our lives.